So, recently I've seen many players asking, I think it was on Discord or Reddit, how to stay alive more than 5 minutes in realistic battles. That is indeed a valid concern, especially from new players coming from arcade battles where the game plays very differently. Suddenly they jump in realistic and get destroyed in a matter of seconds. This video will be an attempt at helping you make the right decisions to hopefully stay alive more than 5 minutes in Ground RB. First of all, a small disclaimer. Dying in War Thunder is a common occurrence, and you should get used to it. Even after thousands of hours on this game, I sometimes still die in less than 5 minutes.
You suck!
In other words, don't let it get to you, it's completely normal. The first tip I have to offer is to select a good battle rating. From my experience, low tier and high tier are the BRs in which you have an increased chance of dying very quickly. It's mostly linked to the fact that vehicles are very fast, extra deadly, or poorly armored at these levels. I'd recommend playing at around 4.0, 5.0 if you have this opportunity. Everything plays a lot slower at this BR range. The big deciding factor on whether or not you'll live long in this game is bound to map knowledge. This is probably the most important element you should try to assimilate. Learn the maps, where or where not to go early in the game, and if you manage to reach a good position, you'll have a massive advantage over the enemy team. Unfortunately, you'll have to experiment a bit for this. There are a lot of maps in War Thunder, and it would take ages to review them all, but just by playing or watching gameplay videos, you'll start figuring out where to go to be safe and hopefully get some kills. Alternatively, you can also create a private match and just run around the maps to learn them a bit more at your own pace. Another good way to familiarize yourself with the environment is to watch replays of your matches. I learned some very good sniping spots thanks to that feature by watching the point of view of the best players in my games back in the day. Finally, note that where to spawn is also an important factor when it comes to living or dying quickly. On some maps, certain spawns are just awful or leave you in a very bad position right from the start. Once you identify them, avoid them like the plague. What makes a good position? This varies a lot, depending on the tank that you play, but to keep it simple, you should seek a position with the high ground, with cover, and preferably one that limits the amount of angles you can be attacked from. Not all maps have locations combining all those criteria, but for the most part, this is what you're looking for. Don't stay near your teammates. That might sound weird and illogical, but in War Thunder, stealth is very underrated. You can control what your team members will do, and for the most part, you should always assume that it'll work against you. The less information you give the enemy team, the better. Remember, they can shoot you if they don't know where you are, and keeping your distances with your teammates helps with that. Also, always try to listen. Staying still will mask a good portion of your engine sound, and will help you hear incoming enemies way better as well. If you want, you can shut down your engine to completely stop emitting sound and maximizing your ambush potential. Often look at your map and how the battle unfolds. If one of your flanks has collapsed, you can assume several opponents will come from this specific direction, and so maybe it's time for you to relocate to a safer position. Or you can try to ambush them, using the stealth strategy we just mentioned earlier. One thing that I like doing and that increases your survivability is to reverse after shooting. That sounds logical, but many don't do it. Instead, they shoot and then wait in place for literally no reason. If you followed my tips so far, you should be able to reverse behind cover and make yourself safe from any type of retaliation. The last tip I'd like to give is to use a light tank. Light tanks are extremely powerful in this game. It may look a bit silly for me to recommend you the light tank class if you already struggle to survive, but in general, light tanks have the best mobility, which is great for reaching a good position or disengaging very quickly, have a low profile, which helps for stealth, and often carry enough firepower to deal with most threats at your BR. A very beginner-friendly vehicle class, very forgiving, very easy to play, and is great for learning the game while having fun at the same time. I hope those tips will help you survive a bit longer. War Thunder is a very complex game, with a very steep learning curve, but once you get past the first 15 to 30 hours of suffering, learning all the mechanics and everything, and once you finally start to understand what you're doing, it becomes an enjoyable experience. Always remember that dying is okay. It will happen a lot whether you want it or not. If you're an experienced player, don't hesitate to share your own tips. Having another perspective on the matter is always appreciated. And with that said, I'll see you in the next one.